Okay, so it's 7:02. Um. Okay. 7:02 on May 12th. So, welcome to this meeting of the Amherst Historical Commission. We're going to begin the meeting with a public hearing, but before we do that, I will take roll call attendance. Hetty Startup,
Present.
Madeline Helmer,
Present.
Antonia Brillenberg,
Present.
and I'm present, Robin Fordham, and we are missing Pat Off. That's it, right? That's all of us at this point. Okay, so with 4 members, that brings us to a quorum. Parker, can you remind me, do we need to open the public hearing with a vote?
Yes.
Okay. So should I read the preamble first?
Yeah.
Okay. So in accordance with the provisions of Article 3.60 of Amherst General Bylaws, preservation of historically significant buildings, the Amherst Historical Commission will hold is holding up this public hearing on Monday, May 12th, 2025 at 7 p.m. to consider the following demolition application requests. 355 South Pleasant Street, Seth Schultz, sorry, and 70 Northampton Road, also Seth, same applicant, Seth Wilschutz. 355 South Pleasant is a request to demolish circa 1830 house and attached barn garage. The existing detached barn will remain, and 70 Northampton Road is a request to demolish the circa 1880 house and detached garage. The chair will entertain a motion to open the hearing.
So moved.
Second,
I second.
so a vote to open the meeting, Hetty Startup,
Approved.
Madeline Helmer. Whoop.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Antonia Brillenberg.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That opens the hearing. Walker, I'm assuming we want to start with the presentation from the applicant.
Yes. So I'm going to bring Seth in as a participant or as a panelist.
Hi, Seth. Welcome.
How is everyone tonight?
Doing okay?
Doing okay.
So let's see here. Am I allowed to share my screen? That work?
I might need to change the settings. Yeah, you should be able to now.
So 355 South Pleasant. There we go. Everyone can see it, I assume.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yep.
So the college, as I think you know, acquired this property a little over 20 years ago. It's been vacant ever since. It was used by the Amherst Fire Department for many years as a training facility until it became too safe for them to even enter. This red white X symbol that you see on the screen is a no emergency personnel entry. So the building has been deemed unsafe for even emergency personnel. So if it were to light on fire or anything like that, nobody is entering it to save it. This is the front, not visible from South Pleasant Street. There's a pretty thick line of trees. And then the side. And then there's kind of an attached building off the back. And then this attached piece right here. And then there is a detached small barn that we are proposing to keep. it's not in as bad of condition. And this is as of a few weeks ago. Rob Mora did require that we fence fence this back porch, and the other side of this is collapsing. It's a little hard to tell, but the roof here and here and here is collapsing. And when we reviewed it with our Environmental Health Services Department and Rob Mora, he mandated that this fence go up. So this fence is pretty new, 8 feet high, to keep anybody away from the structure. And that's what we have. So I think there's not a lot to present on this. It's in pretty dire straits. Happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Hetty had her hand raised a minute ago.
Given how long the college has owned this building, I'm curious to know about how the property has been reviewed, maintained over that 20-year period. It's quite a long period of time. And the family associated with this property is also a very interesting family in town. So I'm just curious to know a little bit more about the.
Yeah, they definitely are. I can't speak a lot to that. I've only been with the college for 5 years. I've only been with the college for a little under a quarter of the time that we've owned this property. I can say that it hasn't been occupied since we've owned it. And I think, unfortunately, the deferred maintenance and planned renewal needs of 100+ buildings on campus are substantial. And it's hard to prioritize an unoccupied building, as unfortunate as that might be for this particular house.
I will say that Hetty and I think Jan Marquardt and Jane Wald all went on a site visit to this property. I'd been introduced to the site by just a friend who lived nearby. And it was pretty clear, well, when we discussed it, that the building, even if it was rehabable, it had sort of lost its architectural integrity. It doesn't have it's got all these add-ons, and the windows have changed, and there's that odd little sleeping porch there on the metal posts. And I don't know if Hetty wanted to speak to that as well. The barn impressed us, and I'm glad to hear that there are plans to keep it. But my question before I let Hetty speak, if she'd like to, I am curious about the intention for maintaining the barn, because keeping it standing is one thing, but if it's not maintained in any way, shape, or form, it'll just be a matter of coming before us for demolition in another decade.
That is true. I know we are actively using it for storage. I'm actually not sure which department on campus is using it, but I can find that out. But yes, we would have to put some effort into maintaining it if we're going to bother to keep it standing. I believe it's our grounds department, but I can confirm that. But I concur that yes, we would need to make sure that we put some effort into its maintenance.
And Walker, is there a way, do we have any enforcement mechanism for that? Like if we were to make a condition of the demolition, contingent upon a preservation plan for the barn?
Not sure. I'd have to talk to Rob Mora, I think, about what your enforcement abilities are around something like that.
Okay.
It's also the case that the site has some pretty mature trees, specimen trees, and what is the remains of what was probably a pretty lovely garden right by the golf course that Amherst College owns. So there are sort of vestigial elements of this site and this building that are still there, and as well as the family that lived here. So I'm a little disappointed, I have to say, that Amherst College hasn't done more to take care of this building in the time that they've owned it. We look to the college as a pretty important institution in Amherst, and the fact that this has deteriorated since I've been to see it is a little shocking, actually. Even if it has lost some of its architectural integrity, I still think it would be worth a kind of a building history being written about it. It's not on Macris. So, you know, it becomes a sort of a story with a skeleton that's left of what was once probably a much more lush, idyllic kind of place to be, especially in the summer with that sleeping porch. I remember the columns being interesting to that porch that you can see on the left. And I think the columns were made of cast iron. I can't, I'm actually sorry that I can't remember, but you know, this was obviously a very pristine property at one point. And so before we decide what we're doing tonight, you know, I think it behooves the owner to, and Seth, I don't know if that's you specifically or somebody else, but I'm hoping that there is some more complete record of the site and how the college came to own it. It has, through the person who lived in it most recently, other connections to the college. So, you know, I think if I was to want to go and research the Dakin family, and I went to Amherst College to Special Collections, it would be nice to find there some of the kinds of records about the house and its grounds, for starters.
Madeline?
Yeah, I'd just like to know a little bit more about the deferred maintenance and the condition that this building was in when it was acquired. Was it inhabited? I mean, inhabitable? Was it a house? And just what is the process that has led to this condition right now? Because I think we should just clarify that, because I really do find that it to be problematic to just acquire a property only to allow it to fall into disrepair and have that be the reasoning for it to be demolished. It's just a classic case of demolition by neglect. And so was it inhabited, and what was the
It
condition
hasn't,
and what led to this?
so again, I only have some history that I've been told by some of my colleagues because it way predates my involvement with the college by well over a decade. It has not been inhabited. Was it inhabitable when we first acquired it? I don't know. I know that the college acquired it to prevent the site from being developed into a community of houses. And that's well documented in the history. Was it actually inhabitable? I honestly can't tell you. As for the deferred maintenance, I agree that it's unfortunate that we were at this moment in history. Again, we have over 100 structures, right, that need plan renewal and maintenance, and houses off campus are not what we need. Unfortunately, right? They don't present a lot of value but they're not highest and best use for a college, right? We could put millions of dollars into this and try to get it back for what purpose, right? It can't be a residence for students. It would have to be sprinklered, it'd have to be accessible. That's not practical, right? It's just not practical to put a dozen staff in outbuildings, right, at the cost. We have a lot of needs. And I agree that we shouldn't be at demolition by neglect, to use your words. And I can't speak for kind of what predates me. I can only say that I think this particular structure is beyond saving, unfortunately.
What was I going to say? So there was there was an article. Do I have sharing?
Oh, let me stop. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I could share. This is from 2015. Just has, see if you guys, let's see that. Are you seeing danger keep out?
Yes.
Is that working? Okay, so this is an article, I believe that was Larry Kelly, who wrote in so 2015. So this is a decade ago. And you can see the grounds there, aerial shot. Definitely not in the condition that it is in now. Not in great condition back then, given the danger keep out sign. So that's one piece of the puzzle. I think the second issue is that we as a town don't have a demolition by neglect bylaw. When I saw this house with Jane and Hetty and Jan, we talked about, we just anticipated that it would be coming before us for demolition, and that, that this is one of the issues. Unfortunately, we don't have a bylaw, so therefore we can't rule to delay demolition on that basis. The the bylaw wants us to recognize this particular structure as significant in some way, shape, or form, either architecturally or by its relation to a person, or by a social, historical, cultural context. And the research that I did back then when we made the site visit, it just wasn't really a strong case for it reaching that level of significance. I think the combination of its condition and that fact would lead me toward the demolition permit. But we are also noting the barn on the premises and also noting the lack of a history of this particular property. My understanding, recently, I feel like I read something about, or maybe on the listserv, about other communities that require the applicant require. So let me explain our situation here. Like, we can impose a demolition delay in want of more information. We could impose a demolition delay on the basis that we want the building saved. So those are two options. And in terms of the desire for more information about the property, we often talk about this when demolitions come before us. And I noted, I think on the listserv, for the preservation listserv, that some communities actually require the buyer, or in some circumstances will require not the buyer, sorry, the applicant to engage a preservation specialist, a consultant, to write up an inventory form, so that the work doesn't fall to the commission and the history doesn't go by the wayside. So that's another option, I think, unless Walker wants to correct me, that we could allow the demolition with that contingency that the college would agree to engage a professional, somebody who meets the Secretary of the Interior's standards for documentation to do a full history of the
I
property.
think I would offer that the college is totally willing, I think, to do that. Having been involved my prior life, I was doing a lot of this in Washington, D.C. and worked extensively in historic preservation. It will be limited by the fact that nobody can go inside, right? So
Right, yeah. I
and
think
it's been made even less safe by the fact that the fire department used it, but the Amherst Fire Department, not the college fire department. So
and most Massachusetts inventory forms don't include interior pictures of, it's not, if they're not.
we would do our best.
Yeah, right, okay. So that's one option for the commission. And then the other piece that I was talking about would be to engage in some way to assure the preservation of that barn. And how we could make that a requirement or not, is a question. Making the demolition permit contingent upon the consultant is easy enough because the applicant can either get the consultant or they can wait out the delay. But whether or not we have any power to assure the preservation of the barn is a whole other area, and it might just be a good faith agreement. Other thoughts?
All I was going to say is, if you can't tell by the background, I'm an Amherst College student, so I'm going to be abstaining from the vote. But thank you for.
I think because we have so few people, you are not going to be able to abstain from the vote because then we wouldn't have quorum to make the vote. So,
Yeah, and Antonio, you don't
Okay.
really, I mean, you don't
You
have
just-
an
can say
easily
that you wanna-
identifiable conflict of
okay,
interest.
great.
Yeah, you don't work for the college, right? Yeah, right.
fine to just
Just
you know, state the
clarify.
fact that you have.
Okay, yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's right, exactly. So now we know.
Okay, then
Okay,
then when it comes to, I can vote.
okay. So any other thoughts? Deliberation on this particular property? Okay, does anybody want to try to form what I said into a motion?
You want to take any public comment?
Oh, yeah, sorry, forgot about them.
You've got one hand raised at least.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I
well,
see
David,
David
I'm-
Robertson, yes.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
You can.
So this is my first attending a virtual meeting for the Historic Commission, so I'm not sure how this process works. Are you going to consider this property and then go on to consider the other property, or is it they're two separate proposals? Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So I guess my thoughts, I think the commission should reject this proposal. And I live at 39 Northampton Road. And so my house is directly across the street from two Amherst College properties, including one of the second property that is proposed for demolition. But I think my feelings about both properties is the same. Amherst College has been a bad neighbor, a bad citizen, and a bad steward of our historic properties. For me, when I say bad neighbor, the other property at 70 Northampton Road is on Route 9. Everybody drives past it on the way into town. And for 2 decades, it has been rotting. It's been strategic neglect. The college acquired the property, it's fallen apart. And if it's a safety hazard, it's a safety hazard because the college let it become a safety hazard. And the same thing is true of the Dakin property. Robin, you showed the article from Larry Kelly from 2015. And in that article, he compared this Dakin property to the other Dakin home that was donated to UMass. And UMass utilized that property, and they still do. That's where they have their Renaissance club. And so they've let these properties fall into their current state. And to hear a college with a $3.55 billion endowment cry poor to say, well, we have 100 buildings and these buildings really aren't a priority for us, just kind of rankles. I don't really have sympathy for a very rich college that acquires very limited real estate. We talk all the time about how there's limited housing. And then for Seth, I'm sure you're a nice guy, but for a representative of the college to say housing, these homes are not a priority for the college. That may be true, but you own them. And I think you have a responsibility to the town to maintain them. When my mother comes to visit, she drives past the house on Northampton Road and says, oh, it's very sad that the people that live there can't afford to maintain the property. I said, oh, no, that's Amherst College and no one actually lives there. Oh, don't you guys have a homeowners association that requires some level of maintenance? Because the property is visibly rotting. We don't. And so I understand that maybe the commission's hands are tied by the bylaws, but yeah, So I think they've been a bad neighbor. I've watched those houses fall apart across the street from my house. Both of them have not been well maintained. They finally did a little work on the one that's directly across the street from me. They've been bad citizens. There's limited housing. We talk all the time about the lack of affordable housing in Amherst. And here are properties that are just sitting there unoccupied, allowed to fall apart. The town, it's also, I mean, the college has also been criticized on more than one occasion for giving very little back to the town. They given $600,000 per year is earmarked to be donated from the town. They made a big deal a few months ago in February about donating an additional $750,000 per year to the town. But I mean, again, they're sitting on a $3.55 billion endowment and they've invested it well. They've made on average 9% dividends over the last 10 years per year, 9%. So that's over $300 million in dividends per year. And so what they donate to the town, even if you add in the additional $750,000 per year, which is only for 3 years, it's a fraction of a percentage of their dividends. Meanwhile, every property that they're sitting
David,
on,
I just want to
yeah,
stop you for a second because we do have a time limit.
I apologize.
That's
But
okay.
I
That's
think you
okay.
can tell
Yeah.
that I don't think they're doing a good job. And I think that this entire proposal is insulting.
Okay, we appreciate your public comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, any other members of the public that wish to comment at this point on the subject property of 355 South Pleasant Street and its detached barn? I see we have Hilda Greenbaum. Hilda, you have about
No,
3
I
minutes.
don't have a comment that I want to make. I just wanted to know what was the name of the butter who just talked, because I'm writing it up for the paper.
His name, according to the Zoom, is David Robertson.
Robertson, thank you.
Sure. Okay, any other members of the public who wish to speak, raise your hand. Not seeing any other members of the public, we will close public comment. A reminder to the commissioners that we are voting on the basis of the bylaw, which requires a justification, the significance of this building. So if you wish to put forward a motion for a demolition delay, there has to be a reason that's related to the history of the building, which could be preserving that barn, that sort of thing. So does anybody want to try for a motion? Madeline?
No, I'd like to discuss this a little bit more.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
Yeah, I think just to sort of table a discussion of demolition by delay by saying this isn't a demolition by delay bylaw just doesn't make sense to me, because I feel like we've got this, sometimes we keep evaluating in this process, I see us keep evaluating buildings based on, oh, well, it's already in poor shape, like let's allow it to be demoed. But that's not, you can't, that shouldn't be the way that we evaluate whether,
Yeah, and I agree with-
even if a building is, and so what you need to understand is if the integrity of the building is so far gone that you can no longer understand its history, that is when integrity and when structural integrity is tied to the preservation, like this sort of understanding of whether it's significant anymore or not. And if it's just structurally not great and not inhabitable, but that doesn't really, I don't want us to just keep getting weighed down by that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I absolutely agree with you, and I'm trying to differentiate between the fact of demolition by neglect and that we don't have a power there currently. But that, yeah, that.
Right, we can't just
But
have
that-
somebody come in
but-
front of us, and say,
But-
well,
right.
it's too far gone, so.
Yes, right. No, I totally agree. There's that line which I totally agree with you, that we often have, well, pretty much everybody who comes before us says it can't be, it's too far gone. And that's really a question for a building specialist. Usually what applicants mean is it's too far gone in terms of our financial purposes. And I absolutely agree with you there. My what I'm trying to differentiate from is imposing a demolition delay because the building was allowed to decay, as opposed to determining what it is about the delay that relates to the significance of the building. That could be if we impose a delay, the purpose is to preserve something, either to sell it, move it, rehab it, or repurpose it, in some way, shape, or form. So that was my only point about that, is that allowing a building to decay is not reason enough to impose a demolition delay. Does that make sense?
Right.
So then I
And
think,
yeah,
but-
I would also say that there were the aspects of the building that you identified as like detracting from its significance, like that sleeping porch that's supported on iron columns. Like I think that's actually a feature. I don't know if that's, I don't know enough about it didn't look like a kind of a modern alteration that
Mhm.
and I would say that there are kind of compelling aspects about this building that are still there.
So do you have, can you articulate a reason that you would put forward to impose a delay?
Um,
My reason would be for engagement about the property, to establish a history of the property, which is sort of, halfway there. I mean, it wouldn't be for the building, it would be to say the demolition permit will be granted when, a consultant has been engaged to document the property.
right, some future alternative for it from that's like I can't think of a future alternative for it as it is right now in its current state.
And I think, all of this discussion will lead into the next property. Same issue, so different property, different state, so. So do we need more discussion around this building in terms of, do people feel like a delay should be imposed in order to rehabilitate the structure?
I agree with Madeline that at some point we should set aside tonight the more global discussion of demolition by neglect, that's a bigger topic that we have been struggling with as a commission for many years now, and deserves more time than and is bigger than the two buildings that are before us tonight. So Robin, to get to the point and to try and form a motion, it would be a motion to ask for a delay of 12 months, which I think is what we can ask for 6 to 12 months, I think, in Amherst. It's much more in many other towns in the Commonwealth. And during that time, to have the college, the applicant, hire a specialist to do a report on the property, to come forward with a detailed condition report for the barn and what they do to it, and proper visual documentation. I mean, I remember I didn't go up really close to those columns on the sleeping porch, Madeline, but it intrigued me that they were cast iron, because if they are cast iron, or they're part of an architectural tradition,
Right.
technology terms that goes back to the early 19th century and to the earliest time when the house was built in the 1830s. So I think a little bit more attention to some of those things would be worth it.
Would it be possible to include in this some sort of like larger assessment of other properties that may be held in this same state by Amherst College, and maybe it would just be, I would like, if this is a policy, that the school has, I think it would be good to reassess this policy of sitting on properties and not providing any maintenance to them. I don't know if there's a way to kind of have to identify historic age properties that are currently
Yeah, I mean, you have to keep-
vacant.
if we can make that a condition, we just need to keep in mind that the applicant can always just wait out the 12-month period.
Mhm.
So just, let's all just bear that in mind. I mean, you know, I think it would be great for the college to engage with us about their historic properties that might eventually come before us, but Walker, I don't know. I mean, I think that the request for a documentation of the history and a condition report on a plan for the barn seemed directly related to the property. I don't know how we would go about attaching something as global as a report, you know, but from the college about properties that, you know, are of concern to us. I mean, I
Not a
agree.
report, but just a list of vacant historic age buildings.
I think you could request that separately from the hearing and see if the college is willing to provide that. But yeah, I think Robin might be right about it's a little bit unrelated to the property to have it be a condition of this delay.
Seth, you have your hand raised, and for some reason I have a weird light
Oh.
going on. Going on
They're
there.
very purple. I would just say that there are countless historic properties that are, of course, owned by the college. And they come in and out of vacancy pretty often because a lot of them are in the rental housing portfolio. And some of those go from rental housing to temporary student dormitories when we need those, and then go back, and sometimes they sit empty for a while. So just because they're empty doesn't mean that they have any intention, that we have any intention of them coming down. I know of several vacant properties right now that are just in limbo state between when they were used as dormitories and faculty housing. So, you know, the faculty housing portfolio for Amherst College, I think is, I don't want to give a number, but we own, I think, over 50 houses, and most of them are old. And they kind of, you know, some of them were sold to faculty, some of them go into temporary vacancies, some go to student dormitories on short-term notice and then come back out again. And, you know, I just want to say that just because it's vacant doesn't mean it's always vacant, nor does it mean that we plan to, you know, try to take it down. And you know, anybody can pull the list from the you know, Amherst database of all the stuff that Amherst College owns. It takes about 20 seconds to search the list for everything owned by the trustees.
Thank you. Okay, further discussion?
I guess one question I had for the commission is, I guess, how we go about deciding the length of time that this would need to take, whether, I guess, between the range that we have, and I guess how we go about assessing whether this should be 6 months or 12 months, and like, I guess, what the merits of making it longer versus shorter would be.
I think my understanding is that we can delay anywhere up to 12 months. And then the question from the commission would be whether we would release the college at any point, like if they had secured, if they, you know, got a subcontract with the consultant, would we need to see the actual product in order to release the delay? This is, you know, what is usually the demolition delay can be used to, you know, bring forth an outcome before demolition, that it was essentially, but what we'd be looking for here. So, it gives the commission power to encourage the applicant to produce whatever material that is in short order so that they can get started on a demolition earlier. And then the applicant always has the opportunity to pass. So I would look at a motion that would allow the permit once, I think once a contract with a consultant was engaged, and maybe for each of those products.
Okay, yeah, I can support that.
Yes, I can too. And I think, I hope this isn't really muddying the waters, but 70 Northampton Road is in an extremely prominent part of town.
Well, I
as-
think we have to discuss
Is
that.
that a separate, is that
Yeah, we
completely?
have, we're
separate?
gonna make a completely different hearing.
I
Yeah.
just figured, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
maybe there would be some.
On this one,
justification
we
for
could,
that.
yeah.
Well, let's take care of both
yeah.
of them together. I
Yeah.
know, yeah, I'm sorry.
Two separate properties, two separate votes.
Okay,
Okay, I
Well,
mean, I motion to allow for demolition under these, provided that a consultant for the documentation is secured, and that the barn is preserved as Robin stated. What did you state, Robin?
Well, I think Hattie said, a conditions report. We could require a conditions report for the barn and an inventory form, that meets the MHC standards for the history of the house.
Okay, MHC's form for the house and a conditions assessment, and
Yeah.
MHC form for the barn.
Yeah, I think the barn would be just part of the MHC form for the entire property.
Okay. MHC form for the house and the whole
Right.
property.
No, I think
and
what
a
we
conditions
have
assessment
before
of the barn.
us is Madeline is putting before us a motion to so Marco, do we want to impose a 12-month delay with release upon? I mean, how specific, we have to get pretty specific here, right?
Yeah, I think that would work. 12 months delay with the option of a earlier approval upon receipt of the required materials.
Yeah, or the subcontracts or the contracts, right? Whew, it's a lot, isn't it? All right, I'm going to try to see if I can say it here. The commission will impose a 12-month delay with receipt of with a release from the delay upon receipt of signed contracts for the creation of an MHC inventory form for the property and a conditions report for the barn. And then I think somebody can just say so moved.
yes, so moved.
Okay, and then we need a second.
Second.
Okay, so now we need, now we want to discuss more. Okay, so we can move to a vote. Antonia,
I support it.
Hetty,
Aye.
Madeline,
Yes.
and I vote aye as well. So the demolition delay is 12-month demolition delay has been imposed on 355 South Pleasant Street with the condition that the delay will be released and the permit authorized upon receipt of contracts to produce an MHC inventory form for the property and a conditions report for the barn. Okay. Next up is 70 Northampton Road. So we go
I'm
back.
sorry, can I just have 2 minutes real quick?
Sure. Okay.
Well, you should vote to close that hearing in any case.
Okay, we have to have two separate hearings. You can't just keep the hearing open.
They're separate hearings.
Okay. So I need a motion to close the hearing for 355 South Pleasant Street.
So
Motion.
moved.
Hetty moved, second.
Second.
Tonia seconded. Can we just do all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mm.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Hearing is closed. Now we need a motion to open the hearing for 70 Northampton Road. Do I have a motion? Motion to open
Oh,
So-
yes, open the
Okay.
hearing,
Yeah,
yes.
so Hedy says so moved. Do I have a second? I need a second to open. the
Second.
Hearing, Battle and seconding, all in favor, say aye,
Aye.
raise your.
Aye.
Okay, so now we are in the public hearing for 70 Northampton Road, and we're just waiting for Seth to return for the presentation on that property.
I think a lot of what we discussed for the former property doesn't need to be
Rehashed.
rehashed.
Agreed.
So
I found a pretty wonderful bed of trillium there, and primrose and lily of the valley on the right-hand
nice.
side of the house. Really beautiful pink trilliums. I don't know quite why they were pink.
Nice.
They're supposed to be white, but they were pink. And I just as clarification, the public comment from David Robertson mentioned these two properties, and 70 Northampton Row is the one we're considering tonight, but its neighbor to the right, as if you're going towards Hadley, is a house that is also boarded up in part, but it looked to me when I walked around as if it was being stabilized to a point where it was going to be, they were going to hang on to it, but that's just an assumption on my part.
Oh, Seth is back. So
So
if you want to
thank
go
you.
ahead and present on 70 Northampton Road, we've
One
opened
second,
the
sorry.
hearing.
Sorry. Okay, so 70 Northampton Road. Let me 1 second here. So I'm pretty sure that everybody on the call knows the condition from the exterior. It is visible from Northampton Road. I just wanted to share a few interior condition shots. It has been abated for asbestos. There is some glazing compound that needs to be abated, but other than that, it has been abated, including this asbestos containing floor. And so those are the relatively recent interior photographs. I didn't pull up exterior photographs. I'm sure that people have. It's pretty visible from Northampton Road, and I'm sure many of the same comments about strategic neglect apply here too. We've owned it for some time. It has not been occupied for some time, and it is a source of both animal entry and vandalism. And the college believes it's timed for it to either find a new owner that is on a different property or to come down.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners want to start the discussion? Not seeing any hands. I will go ahead and start by saying that I think that this property, both given its public facing nature and its architecture, merits more concern about its potential demolition. As I drove up Route 9 home today, I took in the streetscape around that area. The house is clearly related to the other houses on the street. I think that I would say that, having gone recently to a school for preservation, deteriorated and rehabilitate. I'm not going to be able to get that word up. the ability to rehabilitate are not the same thing, and that the deteriorated condition in my mind does not yet speak to the property's need for demolition. The fact that it has so much existing exterior and looks like a lot of interior character defining features really brings it up to a level of significance, I think, architecturally and within the context of that streetscape. And I am loath to allow demolition straight away.
We open it up to public comment.
I think do we discuss first and then have public comment, Walker?
Yeah, discuss first and then public comment.
So other commissioners' thoughts?
Well, this property is really important, I think, for the main entry into town, to the historic part of town. It's got a Form B, you know, it has an interesting history. It's not a really distinguished house architecturally, except its porch is very pleasant. It does have a barn attached to it, so I think it's indicative of a time in Amherst's history when buildings very close to town hall and to the sort of civic heart of town in the 19th century would have included barns or other kinds of agricultural purposes to them, you know, or carriage houses. So I think it's got a grandeur to it, the way it's set back from the street. There's a lovely sweeping lawn. As Robin says, there is a kind of very nice quality to the way all these houses read as a group, coming into the intersection with Pleasant Street from Route 9. So, you know, I think there is a lot to save here for that reason.
Antonia or Madeline, did you have any comments on this particular structure?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the bylaw states if it would be a great loss to the town. I mean, and I think this would. It's the main entrance to, I mean, one of the primary entrances to Amherst. It's like very prominent location.
Yeah, I agree. Antonia?
Yeah, I have nothing new to add. That's already been said.
Any other comments from commissioners before we open it to public comment? I can share a picture of the exterior from the I think this is from 2014. See if I can get my sharing button here. Hold on. From the 2014 Form B. I'm just looking it up on Macros. It's interesting. It's carved out from the Amherst College area. I guess it did not necessarily have a direct relationship with the college before, but you seeing it there now? Yeah, there we go. So that's the exterior. That's the really interesting X's in the porch. A lot of nice exterior detail. And we can't see the barn, but Hetty's point, I think, about barns and outbuildings, which has been a focus of our commission in the last few years, is well taken. So, okay, I'm going to open it up to public comment. I see a raised hand, David Robertson, if you want to let David in. And David, I'm just going to remind you that we've got about 2 minutes to make a comment. Try to be succinct, please.
I promise this. Again, this is my first time. I promise to be brief this
Okay,
time.
that's okay. We're happy to have you.
So, no, I think I've kind of said all the things that I need to say the first time around. I actually have a question for the commission. and it's kind of looking towards the future. Does this commission have any role in approving the purchase of historic homes? So for example, could is that what you're saying no, Robin? So
Yeah,
could a mechanism be put in place to bar Amherst College from the purchase of future historic homes until such time they can demonstrate that they can maintain the historic homes that they already own?
Walker is shaking her head. No, I
I
think
know.
that kind of
Yeah,
Okay.
Commission does not have the authority to ban people from buying properties.
Yeah. The one thing that the town and that the commission would have a role in, and we have discussed up to this point, and I won't belabor it, but is that we have talked about a demolition by neglect bylaw, or which is also called in the more positive way, an affirmative maintenance bylaw. And so basically it would allow the town, and I think the commission would have a role in if a property was brought before the commission for having not maintained the property, there would be some sort of sanction there. So there is our commission doesn't quite know enough about it yet, but it does exist as a bylaw in other places. It may or may not be feasible for us to administer, but that is a preservation tool that I think meets the need of what you're looking for. It's a before the fact as opposed to an after the fact. So thank you for your comment. Did you have another question? You're all set.
No, that was it. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thanks
I
for
cede my remaining time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your attendance. Okay. Any other members of the public wishing to make comment? You may raise your hand. I'm not seeing any additional hands in the attendees, so I'll return to the commission for any further discussion or proposal of a motion.
Well, I vote that I propose that we vote that they don't demolish this building.
So you are
Do not grant the permit. I'm not quite sure how to word it, but
propose
that's
a demolition delay of a period of
12 months. That's all we have.
and does the commission have any interest in oftentimes when we come to this point for a building that we'd like to see preserved, one option is to find a seller. I mean, a buyer rather, for the building to be relocated. That's not my favorite solution, particularly with buildings that are particular to their site, which I think this one really is.
Yep.
Nonetheless, might be the only option if the applicant isn't willing to rehabilitate the building. So the delay is a tool. Any other comments? I think Hetty has put forth a motion to
Impose the delay.
yes, sorry, to impose a 12-month delay on 70 Northampton Road. And I do I have a second?
I second.
Was that Madeline?
That's Madeline.
Okay, so we have the second. Further discussion for this property before we go to a vote? No? Okay. I'll take a roll call vote. Hetty, startup. Motion before us is to impose a 12-month demolition delay on 70 Northampton Road.
So moved, yes.
Okay. Antonia?
Yes.
Okay, Madeline?
Yes.
And I also say yes. So the motion passes. 70 Northampton Road, we'll have a demolition delay imposed of 12 months. And I think that the remainder of it is between Walker and town of Amherst and Amherst College, the two Amhersts.
Thank you, everyone.
What's that?
I said thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you for coming. Appreciate
course.
your presence and having the
Thanks.
opportunity to
Have
discuss
a good
them.
evening.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Okay. Now we need to vote. We need a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Okay, second. Okay, Madeline, if you want to turn your camera on, we can all say aye to the motion to close the hearing. Okay. The motion is unanimous. Public hearing is closed. We continue with our public meeting. We have approval of meeting minutes, April 7th, 2025. Do we need to vote on that, Walker?
Yep.
Do we need to?
You can do a
and we
show of
actually-
hands.
What's that? We can just do a show of hands? Okay. Do we want to do a show of hands for approval of the meeting minutes for April 7th, 2025? Approve.
I wasn't there, so
Okay,
but I
okay, that's fine.
One of you,
3 and an abstention.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any announcements?
I just wanted to say we've received 3 applications for the barn preservation program. And I will put them on the agenda of the next meeting to go over and review the actual applications. But we may want to determine what the review criteria are and, are you going to just approve them all? Or are you going to, review them in some way?
Okay. Okay, any other announcements?
Oh, on a related note, I was interviewed by a woman today, and I have to admit I'm not remembering where she was, but she wanted to do an article about the barn program.
Great. Do we want to include discussion under announcements of the commission going forward in July?
Or unanticipated business.
Oh, all right, we'll leave it for there. Okay. How about section 1? All right, so no more announcements. Section 106, memorandum of agreement. Signature Jones Library.
Which you still can't approve unless, Robin, you're able to vote on that, because without you, there's no quorum.
Oh, okay.
also I don't think we should do it without Pat, probably.
Yeah, if Pat was here, the rest of you could vote whether or not to sign it without Robin.
So
Given that
Walker, do you want to try to convene a public meeting without me where the section 106 can go forward, since
Yeah,
we're at
maybe that's the thing
the
to
point
do.
where it would be very brief, just public meeting, vote, done, go. Okay. Okay. Update on tasks from the historic preservation plan. I was going to suggest that we table any discussion about that, given we don't know the configuration of our commission.
I think that's.
I'd say the same thing for the status of the outstanding CPA awards. We do have time for public comment for the public meeting. So at this point in time, if there are any members of the public who would like to make comment, feel free to raise your hand and you will be recognized. Okay. Oh, and Hilda has asked to be recognized to make public comment.
And just thinking, is anybody on this commission willing to go out there and try to find likely souls to serve with you?
I've asked people, Hilda. Most of
I
the
got
people I know
turned
have already served. They've
Hmm.
already been on the commission, or they've served on other committees. Have to live in Amherst. We have to be resident.
And I got turned down, and the other people I know got turned down.
And
And
for
they
what
know,
I can't
they
think
know
why.
more than the people that are absent tonight, so they got turned down. So I think that maybe there needs to be some talk about that with the the Charter Review Commission, that the whole issue of filling committees needs to be reviewed and perhaps amended. But that's been on my mind all year.
Well, we appreciate your concern for the commission, Hilda. Thanks for your comment.
I wish my son had time, but he's too busy.
I've already asked him. He said no.
He's
Joey
too
used to
busy
be my
preserving
neighbor. He
the
bought, yeah.
He's too busy preserving and
Yeah,
fixing.
that's right. It's true. Um, okay. Well, thank you, Hilda. Have a good
I'm
week.
still trying, but yeah, I'm on, they got me up back on ZBA to try to clean that up, so
Okay.
I'm doing my part.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Do you have any other members of the public who wish to comment? Seeing no hands, that brings us to unanticipated items. We could discuss, I think Antonia is leaving the commission, and we really thank you for being here this last, was it just a year? 2
A
years.
year.
A year and a half, yeah. Thank you so much for participating. I hope that it was educational and useful in some way, shape, or form. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all for letting
Right.
me, as such a newbie to this process, learn so much from all of you guys. It really has been such a honor to serve on the town commission, and I've learned so much. Definitely put me in experiences I never thought that I would be in. But I guess when I was raising my hand, I wanted to know how I could, given that I think something I've felt throughout the whole time I've been on the commission is, I think we have open seats even with us still on. So I guess I was wondering how I should go about making sure that like it's public, like who do I tell that I'm leaving, and like how to make sure there's, I guess, some sort of publishing that there's another opening. But I don't know how I should go about that.
That's been taken care of.
Great.
The person in town who's kind of in charge of keeping track of everything reaches out to all the liaisons at about this time of year to make sure that we know who's staying and who's leaving. So she's actively searching for people who might be interested as well. And she's found, I think, 2 potential members that we're going to be interviewing, but
Great. Thank you.
everyone else she reached out to said no.
Well, good luck, Antonia. Congratulations.
Very
Thank you,
good
guys.
luck. Well done congratulations for your degree too.
Thank you.
And then my understanding is Pat is not returning.
Pat is not returning. Madeline is not returning. Antonia is not returning.
Okay, so that leaves me and Hetty.
You and Hetty.
Okay.
And potentially
Great.
these 2 people who are getting interviewed.
Can we run a commission with that few people?
You can run a commission with 4 people, but everyone's going to
Not do
always
with
have
2.
to be available. With 2 people, you cannot run a commission. You do not have a quorum. So
So we
we'll
need
have
to
to wait and
vote?
see what those 2 interviewees
Okay,
get confirmed.
okay, okay.
That does put us in a situation because there is a demo delay that's going to be due in early June, which I think not everybody was planning on staying through early June, but the terms end at the end of May, or the end of June, June 30th.
Oh, okay. So
It
everybody's
might be that Pat was still going to
Antonia-
be on. I think Madeline might have been hoping to step off sooner, but if
No, I'm on until the end of June, I said.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. So we
Yeah.
have a meeting
As
for
long as
some,
everybody's available for that one.
okay, all
And is
right.
that the first Monday in June?
It's gonna have to be, let me open a calendar. It is gonna have to be the first Monday in June.
Okay.
Because it's due on the 6th, unless I can get them. I might ask if they're willing to extend it just because I'm coming back from vacation on that Sunday. And I won't have any time to really be prepared, but if I have to just wing it, I will.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's my son's birthday. He's old now, so he probably doesn't care. But
Wait, the
I'd rather
Monday-
do the 9th just to have that
Yeah,
date
is-
there,
yeah,
or, you know,
9th.
Tuesday or whatever.
I will ask the applicant if they're willing to extend it to the 9th.
Okay, that would be great, Walker. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully they'll find out by the end of this week, so I'll have to notice it
this
Okay.
week.
But Antonio, you won't be there, correct?
No.
Okay, all right. And then we think Pat will be there, which would make 4 of us.
Hopefully, yeah.
Right. Okay,
Wait,
any other unanticipated items?
Just so everybody knows, I am going to be on vacation from the 16th through the 30th, or the 1st.
Okay,
So if you have a urgent question, you should probably email Nate.
okay. Great. Okay, so we usually discuss our next meeting, which we just sort of did. We'll wait to hear from Walker, whether it's the 2nd or the 9th.
Mhm.
Other than that, any other comments, questions?
thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.